So I had this teacher called Mr. Wachira Mathenge. And Wachira Mathenge was a superb teacher. And he taught us English and he also taught us history. So when he was talking about history, he would tell us about the Bunyorokitara kingdom. And he would talk and you would think that he was a member of the royal kingdom. Because he would talk about the Kabarega, talk about the king, and he would visually take us there. So he talked about Bunyorokitara so much until we nicknamed him Mr. Bunyoro. While he would come to class to teach us English, he would come with a solution for a phrase. And he would say, there is a phrase in English, for example, you can say, as fate would have it. So there was this time, some town boy was guiding somebody. You know how they guide with a lot of enthusiasm. They guide the driver almost, you think he's the one driving. So he was guiding somebody driving and he was telling, Kuja, come. He was calling him. And as he called him, as fate would have it, there were two he-goats that were fighting just next to the road. So as the he-goats were fighting, this man got distracted and he continued. And the he-goats are fighting until the man ran over him and crushed him. That was how he would introduce as fate would have it. Then the next lesson he would come with another phrase and he tells us, if you say something just before something happens, you say that you do that in the nick of time. So he told us about this man who was going uphill with a ramshackle lorry and he was climbing up old ramshackle lorry, and as the lorry came to the brow of the hill, it stalled, and this old man came out of the lorry, went to open the bonnet so that he could see what was happening. But unfortunately, the lorry started slowly going backwards. And as it went backwards, the man ran after it. So it is accelerating down the hill. Other cars are coming up, so there's going to be an accident. And this old man is running after an accelerating lorry. Then he grabbed the door and managed to get into it and braked and averted an accident in the nick of time. So that was Mr. Wachira Mathenge talking about doing something in the nick of time. Now, one afternoon, Mr. Wachira Mathenge outdid himself. He came to class without warning, without any prior arrangement, on one hot, sweltering afternoon. And he came to class with a white man, a teacher from Wales. And this man from Wales introduced himself. We woke up, we just lit up, we concentrated, we were like we had not seen anything like that. So the man came and introduced his subject. First of all, he had to tell us where Wales is. The farthest some of us had traveled was 4 kilometers away in our hometown, Karatina. And here is a man telling us about the United Kingdom. So he drew a big map of Europe and showed us where Wales is, somewhere in the west. And he talked about a kite. That was the subject. So he is there introducing the dynamics of the wind. He was telling us about a kite, and he's saying, it flies like a bird. I remember him saying something like, it flies like a bird. I was like, what? A bird. That was 1985 when I was in class 5. So this man got into the bag and withdrew a huge kite. I was in shock. Earlier on, I had always thought that kites are small toys for small boys. So he comes out with a huge kite, and from the kite, he told us that it has a tail, it looks like a bird, and the thing we were waiting for happened. He said, we are going out there to fly it. So all of us got out of the class and we went outside. He tried to fly the kite, but unfortunately the kite flew a few meters high and then came crashing down. After some time, everyone was out because that little attempt caused a hullabaloo in the school, and everyone came out to watch what was happening. So you can imagine 500 boys and girls leaving their classes midstream and joining our class. So our class was rocking. So we went up the hill, and as we climbed at the brow of the hill, there was some little weed, and the biggest boy was chosen. He got hold of the speedo, and he ran, and the kite rose up like a phoenix from the ashes, and up it went, and we screamed. It was unbelievable. That was the best lesson of our life, and even today, I still remember it. Emotions, they are the glue with which memories stick to your mind. The higher the emotion, the more the memory sticks. That is why you will remember the things that happened to you once in a lifetime when there was a high emotion, either happiness or sadness. 1978 was an important year for me. That was the year that I joined nursery school. And I had a dog we used to call Kimbo. It was a family dog. It contributed a lot to my education. Because it was the dog that would take me to school. Because there was a forest near our home. So when the dog was not in a mood to go to school, I would look for an excuse not to go. So that same year was the year that I got formally introduced to death. Because that is the year that my grandmother died. But because I was 5 years old, they didn't tell me that my grandmother is dead. We used to live in the same compound. And I used to think that she was immortal because she was larger than life. So even when she died, I didn't know. I didn't think she would die. One day I come home from nursery school, I find that my father has contracted a chainsaw person to cut a tree that was near our homestead. After a few days, the tree is converted into trunks. After a few hours, it is converted into timber. And I'm there helping the carpenter. After a few days, the timber is converted into a coffin. After a few days, there is a funeral at home. And I'm there wondering, whose funeral? Then I come to learn it is my grandmother's, because that time there were no mortuaries, so she was being moved and we were watching as they were doing it. I remember even this day, the pastor asking which side the head was. Because essentially it was just a box, painted box. And that was how I came to learn that people can die. Same year, the president dies. And I remember crying. And I didn't cry because I was sad. No, I cried out of fear. Because my sister, who is a prankster, lied to me that death of the president means the death of the country. We are all going to be arrested. This is the end of the world. So I cried in fear. And I cried more for the death of the president than the death of my grandmother. Because the death of grandmother was introduced to me in slow motion. So, memories are like that. Today I can remember 2 or 3 songs that were sung in the funeral. You can imagine all those years. That is what memories do. And that is why stories are so important. Because when you tell a story, people remember what you're trying to say. And that is why we are here to tell stories. Because once you learn how to tell a story, you will become good at it.